Chairman Powell, he ain't playing, this a blur. Gotta follow the data, ain't no time to err. Watch him speak now, with that Tom Crown flair. Yeah, Chairman, he's the captain of the crew. Navigating through the markets, knowing what to do. Federal Reserves in control, making moves. Keeping that money flowing so the economy can groove. Chairman Powell, making paper every hour. Chairman Powell, he got that money power. Hater on his side, watch him rise and devour. Yeah, he's the chairman of the board, making moves that empower.
Chair Powell, making moves every hour. Speaking of that, we might have an incoming transmission from the future. Hold up here.
I was going to come out here and say some bullshit about how the economy will be fine, but you're fucked. So instead, I have a special announcement to make. Because you all have been so adamant about using algorithms to trade every single syllable of what I say with 25 fucking times leverage, I will present what I have today in the form of poetry. I hope this inspires even greater volatility. You will all blow up in 60 seconds. Here goes. Oh, gather round, you Wall Street clowns. I've got a tale to tell. It's about the Fed, where I break bread, and how we're riding this carousel. We're guiding for a soft landing, like a feather on a breezy. But let's be real, it's more like landing on a bed of rusty nails and bees. You think your fucking calls matter? You think your puts give me fright? I'll gobble up your premium, like a honey badger in the night? Oh, I'd rather be on vacation, sipping cocktails by the sea. But here I am in this Fed nation, battling the monster called inflation. Can't you see? So here's the deal. Let's keep it real. Stagflation's knocking at the door, but life's a ride. Can't always glide. It's the journey that we're all here for. So fuck your puts. Fuck your calls. I got you all by the balls. God bless the blessed money printer.
Wow, very out of character there for Chair Powell. Almost as if that's the deep fake from 2 years ago. Shout out to Trader Podcast, whoever made this. Actually hilarious. Just figured we started off on a positive little note here. Give me 1 sec. Got to make sure the stream is steady. I'm going to play our favorite tune one more time.
Chairman Powell, money machine going bird. Chairman Powell, he ain't playing, this a blur. Gotta follow the data, ain't no time to err. Watch him speak now, with that Tom Crown flair. Yeah, Chairman, he's the captain of the crew. Navigating through the markets, knowing what to do. Federal Reserves in control, making moves. Keeping that money flowing so the economy can groove. Chairman Powell, making paper every hour. Chairman Powell, he got that money power. Hater on his side, watch him rise and devour. Yeah, he's the chairman of the board, making moves that empower.
There it is. There she blows. All right, boys. All right. Everything looks pretty operational. Nothing's breaking down quite yet. We are streaming to many platforms here today. If you're on YouTube, you may see a very tall, thin stream. We have the mobile stream up. If you're not on your phone, join us on the main one. Just navigate over on the channel page and join the fam. We got a very good crowd out here. Let's get into it. So I want to thank everyone. I know you have a choice in your FOMC Chair Powell streaming, experiences, but we are at what I just named the official FOMC live stream. We did it first. Everyone copied us. That's fine. And we continue to do it. I've been doing it for years. I really do love that you guys come out, bring the energy for these. Realistically, these tend to be nothing burgers, but nothing burgers can be delicious too. We try to make these a little fun, just make them, have some laughs, make it a little interesting, try to tune in and really pick out any kind of alpha that we can get from these speeches. We have some experience doing it. We do it as a crew, as a group, and I look forward to this one. We did not have one last month. These aren't every month. There's like 9 of them a year. For some reason, they skip like three or four a year. So we haven't had one since March. Let's start with this. First things first. 2 p.m., the interest rate decision will come in. For whatever reason, they publish this at 2 p.m. We have a tradition of Googling it, trying to get the interest rate first and put it in chat. I'll remind you guys when that comes. That's at 2 p.m., so we got about 20 minutes. Chair Powell himself, Jerome Powell, joins us at 2:30 p.m., and these are marked on our charts here, where he will deliver the statement that is given out at 2 p.m. I don't make the rules. I don't know why they do it this way. This is just the way they do it. And so at 2:30, he'll join us. We'll speak live, typically speaks for about 15 minutes, and then takes about an hour, maybe, of questions after. So let's talk about what everyone is joined in here for today. What's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? I have been talking for months. I think we are honestly closer to a hike than a cut. I say that without really thinking we're going to get a hike. I say that simply to show you that I do not believe that a cut is close. I don't. We may have new data. Chair Powell maybe they found the data for once. Maybe they'll be able to weigh in a little bit more. But probability markets and probability sites that do a pretty good job of this have basically just ranked out any kind of change here today. There is something interesting on our Fed probability calculator here. What you'll notice is at the moment, we are giving it a 95% chance of no change. That's probably what's going to happen. At this point, it has a 5% of a 25 BPS cut. So here's what's interesting, though, and this is important. Just yesterday, literally 24 hours ago, and to my knowledge, almost every day before that for the last month, pretty much, we have seen this at almost 100% probability of no change. And in just 24 hours, that has somehow, for some reason, maybe some data came in, maybe I've been sleeping, maybe something came in, but in the last 24 hours, that 0.6% probability of a 25 BPS cut has bumped up about 10x to 5%. That is meaningful. There is something going on there. There is some reason that market participants are all of a sudden not saying it's going to happen, but kind of moving it from off the table to on the table. And that is actually pretty big. That is something to pay attention to. So what else should we be looking for today? If not an interest rate cut, why are we here, Tom? We're here for the lulz, fam. We're here for the chat and the jokes and the taking hits and the shut the doors and the F your puts. No, we're here because there's actually other information that we may get that might be equal to an interest rate cut or something of that like when it comes to trading and volatility and goodness for our assets and preferably crypto and Bitcoin. And what that is essentially twofold right now. One, in March, when the notes came out, so they released the notes a week later, 2 weeks later, which is essentially the behind closed doors discussion of what they announced at the FOMC meeting. Well, the notes after March's had some really interesting rhetoric in them, some interesting, not so usual comments on trade policy and specifically tariffs. Now, the Fed, believe it or not, I don't care if you don't believe it or not, does an incredibly good job at staying non-political or staying non-partisan. They stick to their lane. They do the job that's assigned to them. When that job is changed, as we've seen it change over the years, they adapt. And they do a great job. We have seen Jerome Powell sit in front of Congress for maybe 24 hours total over the years, being grilled by Congress, every question, basically saying, could you point the finger at the other side of the aisle? And not once have I ever seen him do that. I've only ever seen him stick to the Fed's job, keep in his lane, and do the best job that he can to get things done. It is interesting that the notes included talk about trade policy and tariffs. I think the logical conclusion here is that it's on their mind. It's on their mind. It is an uncertainty in the future, and they're going to adapt as the climate adapts as well. So any talk, any comments on trade policy or tariffs could be pretty big, could be some very interesting forward-looking information. Outside of that, because I don't actually think that that's super likely today. Maybe in the notes in a week, maybe we'll hear a little bit more about that. We'll see. But I don't think we'll really hear about that today. What we very well could hear about, that would be, I would say, equal to, or in some scenarios, bigger than an interest rate cut, would be quantitative easing and quantitative tightening. The Fed's balance sheet. We have heard about this for months and months and months. It's become a centerpiece of these discussions. And essentially, this is the Fed imagining and unimagining money out of the economy. That's the easiest way to put it, I'll say. We have seen quantitative tightening being restrictive policy, which is in general not great for number go up markets. We've seen that roll back. In the last meeting, the Fed lowered the amount of tightening that they were doing monthly from 30 billion to 5 billion, not counting mortgage-backed securities. So there is about another 30 billion a month, but pretty significantly reduced that. Over the last few Fed meetings, we have heard talk about pretty unanimously from the Fed members that they expect quantitative tightening to end and potentially begin quantitative easing, potentially, in mid-2025. That is this year. It is May. It is the 5th month of this year. We are pretty damn in the middle of this year. I would not be surprised to get an update on the quantitative tightening and easing schedule. Maybe a more refined, specific date of when we can expect that and how much we can expect, and etc. Where was I? That is the big points. I think those are like the things to listen to, is the forward guidance and the quantitative tightening and easing, aka like Fed balance sheet talk. There's something really cool. I haven't seen many posts about this. I guess I accidentally closed it. Semi-related, though this is more Treasury than this is actually Fed. There's a lot of misinformation about this right now. I'm not going to get into it. I'm going to say this. The M2 money supply for the U.S. from the Federal Reserve, a number we get directly from them, updated April 22nd, I believe. So only a week or two ago. We finally have a new piece of data, or a new month data, on our M2 supply. This lags behind, as you can tell. This is just March. It's already May. We don't have a number for April, but it just updated and it did something very, very interesting. This chart is very old, and just now, as of April 22nd, as of this most recent update, we see a new all-time high in the M2 money supply, breaking past 2022's all-time high for 3 years, 35 months, just under 3 years. We had seen money flow make a rare slowdown, a very rare slowdown. As you can see, all the way back to 1950, money supply has really only gone up. It has some divots, some chill, kind of sideways movement, but we saw an actual contraction of M2 over the last 3 years. And as of April 22nd, even though this is March's, so technically this happened in March, as of April 22nd, it is now public knowledge that the US's M2 supply is at an all-time high. I'm not even going to tackle this right now. It is related. It is interesting. I really just noticed this maybe a few days ago. I just want to share with you guys in this context. This is big stuff. You can see all moons start here. This was written here, I want to say a year, 2 years ago. And finally, we are at that mark. So that is pretty damn spicy. I'm not going to lie. Let's get into how much time I got. It's 1:50. Wow. Time is flying, boys. I'm sorry. I got more to say before we get to this. Everybody out there, I'm sorry. I'm not ignoring you. I love you. Keep engaging with the live stream. Please vote in the poll, subscribe, share the stream out, make it fun. Just do your shenanigans. I'll get to you guys soon. Let's rip through this here. So every FOMC I have the same morning. We are a trading channel. We love trading on this channel, but we don't usually, or we never encourage trading on this day. We have followed FOMCs for years, and essentially we see the exact same thing happen almost every time, with little exception. The result of it is basically everyone getting stopped out or liquidated. Taking a leverage position today is extremely risky. Markets can become extremely volatile, and I'm about to show you kind of what I mean here. Let's say that you know what direction the market's going. let's say it's going up. It doesn't really matter. You know what direction the market's going, so you take a trade today on leverage. What we tend to see, Bitcoin, I'll say it was moving down into the interest rate decision. Okay. What we tend to see is the direction that price is moving tends to reverse when the interest rate decision comes out initially at 2 p.m. So let's say starts moving back up. By the time Chairman Powell speaks, we see it again reverse and usually ends up roughly about where it started. So the result of this is, you know the direction. Let's say you know it's going up, you bet up, you end up getting stopped out anyway. You don't typically have a good ride. We see the market punish longs and shorts before basically just resuming where it was. Please be careful. Please be careful today. If you are trading, you can use my exchange links in the video description below. There's many of them, no KYC options. But I do caution you, even though I benefit when you guys trade on my links, I caution you, please don't lose your hats. I can't hold your hand. I can't tell you what, or I can't make you not do it. But please, just at least be careful. Practice caution. Let's see. All right, we have 10 minutes until this decision is in. So what we're going to do at 2 p.m. and going into 2 p.m., we're going to get our tabs open and we're going to look for this interest rate decision where we can find it first. This is always a good time. Basically, I ask everyone to Google, Bing, Yahoo search, whatever you're doing, ask ChatGPT, even though I don't think that's a good way to do it. When you see it, put it in the chat. You have to name a source. See who can do it first. Challenge has been put out there. We got a few minutes. What did I miss? Did I miss anything? No, I think we're pretty good here. I think we're pretty good. I'll play the song one more time. Let me pull up the chats and refresh them, see where you guys are at. We got a few minutes to shoot the shit, see what you're looking at. I'm assuming you're looking at Bitcoin dominance. If you're a crypto fan in here, on a ripper, continuing higher. Turns out the bull run was just Bitcoin dominance. All right, give me a sec. Let me refresh these chats. Say hello. Let me see who's in the hizzy today.
Chairman Powell, money machine going bird. Chairman Powell, he ain't playing, this a blur. Gotta follow the data, ain't no time to err. Watch him speak now with that Tom Crown flair. Yeah, Chairman, he's the captain of the crew, navigating through the markets, knowing what to do. Federal reserves in control, making moves, keeping that money flowing so the economy can groove. Chairman Powell, making paper every hour.
What's up, boys?
He got that money power. Data on his side, watch him rising the power. Yeah, he's the chairman of the board, making moves that empower.
What is up, my boy Steve? I see Optical Art in the chat. I'm sure his family, his community here as well. By the way, guys, can we send our good energy and prayers and vibes and thoughts? Can we send them to Steve and his family right now? I'm not gonna share any information. Just every little bit counts. Every little bit helps. Just send them good vibes over there. We can do that as a community. Can do some good stuff. What's up, Hendrik, John Doe, Chaka, Raw, Doggan? Nice name, man. Esteban, what's up? Costu Gavali asking about being a profitable trader, risking prop firm. Yeah, probably not going to get to that comment today. Join us on Friday when it's a little more chill, a little bit more relaxed. We'll get into more of those questions. What's up, Michael Janix Hendricks? How you doing, man? Positive energy sent. Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it. What's up, Pickle, Tom G, Con Long, Steve? Hello, Karen. How you doing, Karen? Petro, Daniel. Do those glasses come in men's? No, they only make them in Chads. And I'm sorry, you're just not going to be able to. They're not going to fit you. They only come in Chads. Burn. Anyway, thumbs up, everybody. Thank you. Yes, tap the screens, likes, share, subscribes, help hype it up. We have a few minutes here until the interest rate decision is in, and then just a little bit more until Chairman Powell joins us. It's going to be a good time. These are always even better when they don't have one the month before, because it's like built up Chairman Powell energy. There was some very, I'd say some very hawkish, kind of bearish tones in the minutes. Oh no, more than one ingestion server using the primary URL. Send one stream to the primary. I'm so confused. We've been getting the weirdest YouTube things. I might have to close I might have to close. Damn. I might have to close the short stream. Hate to do it, guys. If you're over on the short stream, join us on the main one. There's something weird going on. YouTube is saying the connection is poor because we have, I guess it's setting them to the same stream keys. I don't know. That shouldn't be possible. I'm going to end the mobile stream. Join us on the main one. Be a good time. Oh, wow. I'm glad I noticed that. Oh, yeah, that's a good catch. Damn, we have a bunch of viewers over there, too. Hopefully you join us on the main one. Hopefully that fixes the main one. All right. Yeesh. Yeah, that's a bad sign. It's a bad sign when you get this little bar. Something, something. Yeah, that's not a good sign. Hopefully that fixes it. I tested this before the freaking YouTube. If you ruin this stream for me, YouTube, I'm going to be very upset. I'm going to be very salty with you. We'll see. How is the feed on the mainstream? Is it good? Is it smooth? Any cutting out anything? Pickle? Anything? Main been Gucci? That's good because, well, the main has been saying it's not Gucci. Whatever. This is our life on YouTube. I tested this out right before. All right, we're good. Thank you, boys and girls. Thank you, thank you. All right, audio is a bullish. Please react in your DM. Cannot do that right now. Feed is super duper. All right, that's what we like to hear. That's what we like to hear. 5 minutes. Just 5 minutos. Until the big question is answered. Uh-oh. Every day is a struggle. Every day's a struggle, man. YouTube's just blasted me with stuff. Oh my God. Making me real anxious. But it is what it is. We're just going to have to push through. All right, 5 minutes. Data. Data. Do they have the data? I have a secret for you. I have a little, tiny secret for you. There's no data. There never was. There never will be. There isn't. Hopefully Greenah joins us. Gina, if you haven't been here in a few months, Gina actually left as a FOMC reporter. I think her last one was in December. It's been crushing. It's a crushing blow to our community, but we're recovering slowly. We're finding new love. We're branching out. We have enough love for more than one. Hopefully Greenah's there. Maybe there'll be a new Gina. TBD. We will find out. Ooh. Into the decision, as literally just warned you guys. Into the decision, seeing some volatility kick up here, some bigger candles on the dollar, or on Bitcoin. The dollar relatively sideways. We might swap this out for gold. Let's see. We got Bitcoin at the top, the dollar, and then let me throw on gold. Let's see if gold is reacting. Anything here? Gold completely sideways, as gold does. As gold tends to do. Let's add S&P. SP. Kind of same as Bitcoin, a little downside. All right, we're going to make this back to 2. We'll check back in on these. What are you guys feeling today? What's up, Righteous Exotics? I see you subscribing. Bangla Masti TV, rollout. Who else? There's a bunch of them. Bunch of new subscribers. If you're out there and you haven't joined our family, hit that subscribe button. Join us. One of us. Absolute best FOMC live coverage in the world. I like saying, I like this official thing we did this time. The official. What does that even mean? So official. That's all it is. 3 minutes. Not even 3 minutes until the decision is in and we find out and the suspense ends. Now we just wait for Powell. Here's what we want to do. Open up a Google tab, a Bing tab, or whatever you want. Let's use all the sources. Search for interest rate decision May 2025. Here's the kicker. If you search this right now, no search result will be valid. You'll find them. And it'll be speculation. There'll be AI articles saying that, no interest rate decision or something. It has to be published 2 minutes from now. 2 minutes from now. Can't be published yet. In just 2 minutes. Any result before that doesn't count. Disqualified. I can't stop looking at that warning. YouTube's still giving it to us. We have like not had a smooth, problemless stream on YouTube in like 2 weeks now. It's just like a new thing every day. New thing every day. All right, but let's do this together. We have like 90 seconds. Open up your tabs. Get ready. When you find it, put it in the chat. If it's no change, put no change. If it is a change, put the change. Put your source. Please don't just put nothing. Please don't just put no change or 25 BPS or something. Put a source. The first one to do it with the source wins. That's some big honor. Play sorry for Bitcoin holding. I don't know. They might strike us. 88K, here we come. You never know. What's up, Sergio? Imad, how you doing, man? Stream quality is good. That's so weird, dude. It's so weird that it is. 2 o'clock is here, I believe. My computer time is wrong. It's so weird because this is still saying error. It's still saying poor quality, error, whatever. At least it's good. Here we go. Put it in the chat. Here, drum roll. Do it. I'm going to use cryptocraft.com. Let's see. They're usually pretty good. You can't just say no change. Disqualified, 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 disqualified. Forks Factory 4.5. Wait, what? We're at? Wait. -2. See, that's why we got to put the sources. You got. I'm getting answers. Disqualified. Disqualified. Finally, pronounce your name right. Actual. There it is. No change. The 95%ers take the cake today. Really surprising. Absolutely no one. It is weird. Does anyone know? I wasn't reading the chat back then. I was too in the zone. Here we go. We're getting our interest rate decision reversal coming in hot, probably. I wasn't reading the chat. Does anyone have an idea, or was there an obvious reason that the probability for a 25% cut went from essentially 0 yesterday to 5% today? Was there any like data or announcement or anything that maybe could have kicked that up? Did anybody see anything? Can we check out that website use again? Yeah, absolutely, man. Lazy eyes. It's just cryptocraft.com. They don't pay me. Free site. I just use it for like a crypto calendar. They do a good job. Cryptocraft.com. Shout out. Free shout out. You can send me a check if you want. Cryptocraft. I'll put the link in the chat too. Spelled how it sounds. Cryptocraft.com. Here we go. Volatility kicking up here. We have seen spicier FOMC interest rate decisions come in live, but we've seen spicier. But this one not disappointing either. Let me clean this up. Get rid of the text here. There we go. Bitcoin doing a little reversing, perhaps doing a little reversing, trending down into the decision. Literally warned you guys of this. I know it's so predictable. You'd think we would trade it. It's like, but it happens almost every time. Just not worth it, man. We've tried. You almost always end up getting stopped out. Just not worth it. Trending down into the decision. Decision comes in. Market reverses. Chairman Powell speak. Market reverses. So be careful here. Again, volatility getting spicy, and likely more to come as Chairman Powell speaks. More ahead. We have 29 minutes until he is live here on this channel. We can do a little looking at charts. We can do a little stuff. In a few, though, what we are going to do is we're going to play his opening from the previous FOMC last month. I have the transcript pulled up as well, and we're going to compare that to his opening statement today. This is actually a new feature, a new segment of these streams that we didn't do previously. I think is going to have value for you guys. I think it's important. So until then, we got a few, like 15 minutes. What should we look at? What are we looking at? What's the spice today? Did I have any alerts go off? I told you guys, I begged you guys. I didn't tell you guys. I begged you guys not to buy this. Hopefully you didn't. Music? Nah, we're not gonna do music today. I mean, we can play the Chairman Powell song. We're gonna keep no music today. We don't have enough time to be fiddling with it, messing with it, stopping and starting it. Powell's the Grinch, all right. He repeats himself often, indeed. Well, he only doesn't repeat himself when there's something new, when there's a change. So if there's no change, he's gonna say almost the exact same thing. Yes. Tom did his homework. I did, Mr. Meaner. I did it all. All of the homework today brought to you by me. Zero help. I put in a little work in these to try to make them good. Goldfish, you trade in one? Hell yeah. Get him, bud. Trump Q1 jobs data coming in. Is that today? Powell talking about a new CASPA standard. Doubt. Big doubt on that one. Anyone think Trump will use the word data? Steve, probably not. Powell definitely will. If you want to play the Powell drinking game, be careful. Make sure your drinking age, wherever you're at, don't drink illegally. Drink responsibly. But the drinking game is, what is it? Data. Anyone who says Powell, take a drink. Anyone who says data, take a drink. What else do we got? What are the other good ones? The problem is if you actually seriously play this drinking game, you might not be awake by the end of his opening statement. Like, the data suggests. Careful. He's going to have a purple tie. It's always purple. 3 Fed rate cuts this year. Perhaps that's what they're supposed to do. We're still waiting on the first one. Poll on tie color. All right. Good vote. Good poll. 66% of us winning. Yeah, you'll be dead. Exactly. That's why I said please drink responsibly. Don't. Powell's tie today. Let's go blue. Let's go red. Let's go purple, which it always is. And then let's go green. I don't know if he's ever had a green one. Let's go there. There you go. Powell's tie. Get it. Hard data, shotgun a beer. Oh, God, we'd be dead. Omkar, can we do dog, Bitcoin meme token? Tune in Friday, man. We're not gonna dive into any like low caps or anything, man. Not today, guys. We're gonna keep focused on the big stuff. We don't have that much time. If you have a chart request, I just got it, and I literally in this moment right now just got a notification from PayPal. Literally this second, it says Sol and Link are on PayPal. You can now buy, sell, receive. Buy, sell, send in, receive Solana and Chainlink on PayPal. Relevant. Random. I don't know if I ever get notifications from PayPal if I'm not sending a transaction. That's very weird. Literally in this moment just got that. The tie is orange. Ooh, that'd be good. Sustained inflation, dead. If you drink and drive, you might spill your drink. One of the many reasons not to drink and drive. Little tip, stick with beer, yeah. Stick with water. Powell gonna steal the summer? Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think so. I appreciate Powell. I know he's been kind of in the headlines as perhaps contested. I don't even know. People are being dramatic about him. People are very angry at him. I like him. I'm biased though. We've been following him a long time. I'm biased. Plus, we wouldn't have these awesome streams without him. I think Bitcoin's looking really good. Yesterday's candle, back testing. We'll say March is high here, but really 93.3, the yearly open. Back testing it, bouncing. I'm liking this. This is looking good. We didn't sell off right away into Goblin Town. Though that could still be ahead today. Don't get too ahead of yourselves. Okay. Nothing important. Refreshing the chat. We have a few minutes. I honestly think Bitcoin dominance steals the show. Is there any chart? Maybe gold. Gold might steal the chart. That's a pretty damn good chart, man. That was a pretty gross top for gold. Gold marching right back to all-time highs. Gonna be a chart to watch today during this meeting. Absolutely. Gold, I do not believe is done. It could take a breather. I've never seen gold move like this ever. So it is going to be hard to predict. The volatility on it seems to be amping up. It pulled back. This looked pretty gnarly, but I don't think it's done. I think gold has higher highs coming in this year. I think it'd be silly to bet against it. Stocks having a red day into Powell. Not that surprising. There's been a lot of red days here this year. Currently at a lower high. That's actually looking pretty ugly on the day. Hopefully that can fix itself up here. What's Ethereum doing? Ethereum struggling. On the struggle bus still. Someday, my little Ethereums. Bitcoin. I just got an alert on Bitcoin. There we go. Is that a new day low? Hold up. We're dumping, boys. We're jumping. I mean, yeah, you zoom out to the day, we're not dumping at all. Retracing a little bit of that pop. Market's pricing something in, maybe this meeting now bringing the chart back to reality. That's gnarly. And this is why we say, please be careful. If you don't trade today, but if you must, just be careful. Prepare to get stopped out. Prepare to lose money. Bitcoin is a dumping. That's right. What's up, Verhoofty? What's up, Elliot? I'll come out with a yellow Bitcoin. How about an orange tie? Do not trade the FOMC. What's up, Monkey? Good to see you, brother. Joe. 1000x long MXC, boys, and liquidated. Liquidated. What's up, Alex Wells, RS Miller, Bob Windy? No tie? That'd be crazy. It's weird how crazy that would be, and it's just a useless piece of clothing. That'd be crazy if you had no tie on. It would disrupt the world. What's up, Recto? Sell zone of gold. Time for Bitcoin now. Struggling on Struggle Street. I feel you, Ian. What's up, Sprouxy, Max? Who else is here, boys? AA, Alien Psyop, Amen, Baby G, Bat Cat, Bob Windy, Brad Horner, Cactus Leo, Christopher Stars, Clever Custom Performance, Crypto Esquire, Crypto Arrow, Crypto Farmer, Darko, Dave Brum, how you doing, bro? David Williams, Eddie Phuket, LC, as Bitcoin's dumping. We're still getting more people jumping in here. Flat Smack, what's up, brother? FOMO Sapien, Freshta, Funky Action, Gabe, Georgia Vol, Gold Dragon here again. Good to see some OGs. Hendrick, Hookfish, How to Use AI. What's up, Guy Gaines? Jacob, Janix, Jasper, JC, Jesus, JJ Giddy, JKP Guy, Joel De Leon, Joe Munkle, Joe Doe, Johnny C, Chris Pax, LM, Marcus Travaskis, Matt Bukeli, Max, Michael, Muchwana, Mikey, Mickle, 911, Mohammed, Mr. Meaner, Mr. Green, what's up, man? New technology, dude, the names are coming in faster than I can read them. I love it. Keep them coming. Say hello. Get in here. If you're here today, let us know. Be loud. Mr. Ethereum, rough times for you, my friend. Rough times. We're here with you. Monkey Slap, both the names are flying in. MT Zaz Plays, Name, Norm, Obisi, of course, opticalart.com, my guy. Prod, Betwixt, Raz, Recon Runner, Recto Verso, Remington, RS Miller, Ruth, Sajeev, Salim, Scene, Sebastian, Simon, Sprouxy, Stay Calm, Sunchips, Suso. I love Sunchips. They're such a good snack. What's up, the Koi partner? How you doing, brother? And fellow checkmarker on YouTube. Hell yeah. T Money, Ted Folk, Pickle, Bearded Wanderer, Tim Lee, Thomas Vine, Tor, Crash, Trinity, Von Day Hayes, Walter Brown, Wojak, Zesty Snipes Monkey, and I'm sure I missed like 1,000 more of them as I was saying them right now. What's up, God? Loud and proud. That's right, brother. Rectum Wrecker. Yeah, well, hold on to your butts. Hold on to your butts today. Things could get buttish. Okay, we have 19 minutes until Chairman Powell is here, and this is the new segment. Here's our new segment for the FOMC streams. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how you guys feel about this. I think this is valuable. So what I've done is I pulled up the last FOMC, and we're going to listen. I have the transcript pulled up too. We're going to listen to the opener from March. And what we're going to do, the reason I want to do this now and I had it timed for this, is we can have this fresh in our minds, because at the end of the day, the most important thing that we can take from these is just the differences. What did he say in March? What are the differences? And if you zoom in, that's why I have the transcript up. If you zoom in on the words, it really is as simple as literally what are the differences in words, because he says virtually the same thing every time. There's a few points in his little speech where the words can be different. Basically, you know, is inflation cooling? Is it heating? Is there jobs heat or hot or cool? Or like little words, and that's it. It's almost like a Mad Lib. He reads a Mad Lib live. So let's listen to this. 3. It's only a few minutes. Here we go.
Good afternoon.
My colleagues and I remain squarely focused on achieving our dual mandate goals of maximum employment and stable prices for the benefit of the American people. The economy is strong overall and has made significant progress toward our goals over the past 2 years. Labor market conditions are solid, and inflation has moved closer to our 2% longer run goal, though it remains somewhat elevated. In support of our goals, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged. We also made the technical decision to slow the pace of decline in the size of our balance sheet.
That was the big one.
I'll have more to say about these decisions after briefly reviewing economic developments. Economic activity continued to expand at a solid pace in the fourth quarter of last year, with GDP rising at 2.3%. Recent indications, however, point to a moderation in consumer spending following the rapid growth seen over the second half of 2024. Surveys of households and businesses point to heightened uncertainty about the economic outlook. It remains to be seen how these developments might affect future spending and investment. In our summary of economic projections, the median participant projects GDP to rise 1.7% this year, somewhat lower than projected in December, and to rise a bit below 2% over the next 2 years. In the labor market, conditions remain solid. Payroll job gains averaged 200,000 per month over the past 3 months. The unemployment rate at 4.1% remains low and is held in a narrow range for the past year. The jobs to workers gap has held steady for several months. Wages are growing faster than inflation and at a more sustainable pace than earlier in the pandemic recovery. Overall, a wide set of indicators suggests that conditions in the labor market are broadly in balance. The labor market is not a source of significant inflationary pressures. The median projection for the unemployment rate in the SEP is 4.4% at the end of this year and 4.3% over the next 2 years. Inflation has eased significantly over the past 2 years, but remains somewhat elevated relative to our 2% longer run goal. Estimates based on the Consumer Price Index and other data indicate that total PCE prices rose 2.5% over the 12 months ending in February.
Those of you tuning in right now, guys, reminder, this is March's FOMC opening statement. It's almost over, but we are watching this as a new segment here so that we can then listen to his current one that he's about to give in just a few minutes. And it'll be fresher in our minds, easier to compare. I have the transcript pulled up that we will have up while he's talking. It's full transcript, everything he says. Just a reminder, you haven't missed anything. You're still early. Still time to grab a brew, roll up. Still time to like the stream, subscribe, share it out, join the fam. Let's finish it up.
And that excluding the volatile food and energy categories, core PCE prices rose 2.8%. Some near-term measures of inflation expectations have recently moved up. We see this in both market and survey-based measures, and survey respondents, both consumers and businesses, are mentioning tariffs as a driving factor. Beyond the next year or so, however, most measures of longer-term expectations remain consistent with our 2% inflation goal. The median projection in the SEP for total PCE inflation is 2.7% this year and 2.2% next year, a little higher than projected in December. In 2027, the median projection is at our 2% objective. Our monetary policy actions are guided by our dual mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. At today's meeting, the committee decided to maintain the target range for the federal funds rate at 4.25% to 4.5%. Looking ahead, the new administration is in the process of implementing significant policy changes in 4 distinct areas: trade, immigration, fiscal policy, and regulation. It is the net effect of these policy changes that will matter for the economy and for the path of monetary policy. While there have been recent developments in some of these areas, especially trade policy, uncertainty around the changes and their effects on the economic outlook is high. As we parse the incoming information, we're focused on separating the signal from the noise as the outlook evolves. As we say in our statement, in considering the extent and timing of additional adjustments to the target range for the federal funds rate, the committee will assess incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks. We do not need to be in a hurry to adjust our policy stance. and we are well positioned to wait for greater clarity. In our
dot plot projection, we're going to see an update to this during his speech. This is always big stuff because each one of these dots represents, I know, it's not just Chair Powell making the choices. It's a board, the Federal Open Market Committee. Each one of these represents a committee member and where they see interest rates over time. So you can't see it very well down here, but this is the time axis down here, and this is the what interest rate they think. So you can see as time goes out, every member sees interest rates stepping down. We're going to get an update on this today. I'm glad we did this segment. I don't know if you guys are enjoying it or not. Let me know. But I'm glad we did this to keep this fresh, and we can then have like somewhere to compare it from.
SEP, FOMC participants wrote down their individual assessments of an appropriate path for the federal funds rate based on what each participant judges to be the most likely scenario going forward. An admittedly challenging exercise at this time in light of considerable uncertainty. The median participant projects that the appropriate level of the federal funds rate will be 3.9% at the end of this year and 3.4% at the end of next year, unchanged from December. While these individual forecasts are always subject to uncertainty, as I noted, uncertainty today is unusually elevated. And of course, these projections are not a committee plan or a decision. Policy is not on a preset course. As the economy evolves, we will adjust our policy stance in a manner that best promotes our maximum employment and price stability goals. If the economy remains strong and inflation does not continue to move sustainably toward 2%, we can maintain policy restraint for longer. If the labor market were to weaken unexpectedly or inflation were to fall more quickly than anticipated, we can ease policy accordingly. Our current policy stance is well positioned to deal with the risks and uncertainties that we face in pursuing both sides of our dual mandate. At today's meeting, we also decided to slow the pace of decline in our balance sheet. Since we began balance sheet runoff, our securities holdings have declined by more than $2 trillion. While market indicators continue to suggest that the quantity of reserves remains abundant, we have seen some signs of increased tightness in money markets. Beginning in April, the monthly cap on Treasury redemptions will be lowered from $25 billion to $5 billion. Consistent with the committee's intention to hold primarily Treasury securities in the longer run, we are leaving the cap on agency securities unchanged. This action has no implications for our intended stance of monetary policy and should not affect the size of our balance sheet over the medium term. The committee also continued its discussions as part of our 5-year review of our monetary policy framework. At this meeting, we focused on labor market dynamics and our maximum employment goal. As we have indicated, our review will include outreach and public events involving a wide range of parties, including Fed Listens events around the country and a research conference in May. Throughout this process, we will be open to new ideas and critical feedback, and we will take on board lessons of the last 5 years in determining our findings. We intend to wrap up the review by late summer. The Fed has been assigned 2 goals for monetary policy: maximum employment and stable prices. We remain committed to supporting maximum employment, bringing inflation sustainably to our 2% goal, and keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Our success in delivering on these goals matters to all Americans. We understand that our actions affect communities, families, and businesses across the country. Everything we do is in service to our public mission. We at the Fed will do everything we can to achieve our maximum employment and price stability goals. Thank you. I will look forward to your questions.
Real quick here, though. Only one more thing. So this is from March. We don't typically or haven't in the past done this. Listened to the previous statement. Why? I don't know. I never thought of it. But, I'm trying to make these better. And if you guys enjoyed this segment, let me know. Basically, that is all the importance. When he answers questions, there's some important context and things. I'm trying to look for Greena. She's right here. There's important context when he answers questions, but the bulk of the value is what he just did there in March. We're going to hear that again in just a few minutes. And so I wanted to have it fresh because it is not just the words he says, but it is the differences between the previous FOMC and now. What has changed? Are they looking at the same dates, the same targets, the same, etc., everything? I do have the transcript up. I don't know how I'll be able to have this up and watch it and have the chart up, but I'll at least be looking at it and I'll be pointing out some differences unless I can figure out a better way to do this. Where's Greena? Where is she? I can't find her. They scrubbed her out. Oh, well. That is a task for another time. All right, let's get back into it. We only have 6 minutes until he's live. Is Trump rage tweeting yet? I'm actually surprised, Jeremy. To my knowledge, Trump actually is not live announcing anything right now. That's a rare twist. The last many times Chair Powell spoke, we have seen President Trump kind of have a last-minute meeting, a last-minute announcement. Is there anything on the docket? Does anyone see anything? It's hard because when you search like Trump live, you just get like old live streams being replayed on loop. It's hard to actually like figure out what is live or not. But this would be a rare miss for them. He did last night say that this is some huge announcement, right? Announcing the announcement. Very crypto altcoin of him. Very shitcoin of him, to be honest. Announcing the announcement. Trump said yesterday he'll come with important news. Yeah, we're not going. I will send everyone in this chat one Dogecoin if there's an interest. Wait, no, there is an interest rate cut. We already know there isn't. I was gonna say if there is, I was like, yeah, there's no way. This is not gonna happen. Trump said he is open to removing 145% tariff. That's right. That's not a big announcement. That's what he said the whole time. There must be something else. That doesn't make sense. Possibly latest Monday for the announcement. I mean, now is the time. Jump in, steal the show. We'll see. Nothing burger, I'm in. Well, we will find out. There was no change in the interest rate, but that does not mean nothing burger. We saw that last FOMC in March. That's why I replayed his opening statement, because while there was no interest rate change, it was by no means a nothing burger. In fact, it was a very something burger. I should explain what he said. I mean, he said a lot. He said a lot of things, and I'm on the spot here. Some thoughts. I don't know. Things just off the top of my head. The notes are more. I keep remembering the notes because that was more recent. Rates held steady. Essentially, quantitative tightening. There are more than one avenue through which quantitative tightening happens, but one of them was reduced from $25 billion a month down to $5 billion a month, which is a big change. However, they still have mortgage-backed securities at $35 billion a month, so it is not representative to just look at that 25 to 5. It's more of a 60 billion down to 40 billion, which is still a reduction of 1/3 of the quantitative tightening schedule. That's pretty good. He did bring up the pace of quantitative tightening. I think that the dates were unchanged, looking for like mid this year to unwind that. Dot plot shows that the dot plot that we just looked at showed that like all members of the FOMC are looking for lower interest rates by the end of the year. Not necessarily as low as you guys want them or as low as you think or whatever, but all of them are showing a lower rate by the end of the year. And that's big news. We were promised, 5 cuts at some point last year and this year. Then it was down to 3. Then they were talking about maybe just 1. Like, this is big stuff. It's not just the easy to digest number. I know life is just never simple or easy or fun like that. But there is more to this. It's going to be something. It's going to be interesting. 2.25 cuts, yeah, probably. I mean, that makes sense. McDonald's will be exempt. I don't know what that means, alien psyop. You're an alien psyop. He'll give us all a coin. What if Chair Powell, his first words is just like, I'm launching a coin. I'm launching a coin. Trump will announce a new agency. Chair Powell, China help efforts for... Oh, wow, Mr. Dinkles, that's pretty good. China help efforts for retaliatory product overflow and waste. The Chair Powell executive order. I like that. I'll give you all 1 Pepe coin. I'll give you all 1,000 billion Pepe coins if there's an interest rate change today, because we know there isn't. But Tom Crown will replace Chair Powell effective immediately. He's a great guy. Believe me, he's the best. All right. That is the only scenario. I don't want Chair Powell to leave, but if he leaves, I'll only if I replace him. There we go. Never say never. Yeah, exactly. Who knows? What even is this year? Who knows what will come tomorrow? This is absolutely crazy. This is the craziest year. I thought COVID was the craziest year, like 2020. 2025 takes the cake, and it's not even half over. Not even relative. It's time for Chirp-Hill. Real quick, get your votes in. What color's the tie? Purple leading the way, but some great other options being voted for here. 1,300 votes. Let's get that up to 2,000, 3,000. We can do that in the next few minutes. We got plenty of people, plenty of time, guys. We have maybe 60 seconds until this is live, and we can see the dollar already showing a little life into this. From you, here's what I want. We have just seconds to go until Chairman speaks. You have just enough time to hit that like button. Please smash the like button. Show YouTube you like this content by hitting that like button, subscribing, sharing, commenting, voting in the polls, saying hi in the chat. Show YouTube you like this content. The more you do that, the more it will show it to new people. And that's how our family grows. That's how we've built this event from nothing with all of your help. It's all you guys. I'm just here. I do the best I can. I'm just here, but you guys carry the weight. I appreciate you. This should be starting up literally in seconds. Literally in seconds. So let's go. There it is. This is the one this month. If you heard something before, that was March. I'm going to do my best to compare them. The silence is deafening. Pink tie would be very bold. Been with me since the old times. What's up, Amen? Chair Powell about to announce his retirement. That would be a crazy twist. That's not a bad one, Janix. Pretend you're talking to a Twitch chat or a different platform. There it is. What? What?
My colleague's 𝐂𝐸 is still in a solid position. The unemployment rate remains low, and the labor market is at or near maximum employment. Inflation has come down a great deal, but has been running somewhat above our 2% longer run objective.
Same.
In support of our goals, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged. The risks of higher unemployment and higher inflation appear to have risen, and we believe that the current stance of monetary policy leaves us well positioned to respond in a timely way to potential economic developments. I will have more to say about monetary policy after briefly reviewing economic developments.
Word for word from
Following
March.
growth of 2.5% last year, GDP was reported to have edged down in the first quarter, reflecting swings in net exports that were likely driven by businesses bringing in imports ahead of potential tariffs. This unusual swing complicated GDP measurement last quarter. Private domestic final purchases, or PDFP, which excludes net exports, inventory investment, and government spending, grew at a solid 3% rate in the first quarter, the same as last year's pace. Within PDFP, growth of consumer spending moderated, while investment in equipment and intangibles rebounded from weakness in the fourth quarter. Surveys of households and businesses, however, report a sharp decline in sentiment and elevated uncertainty about the economic outlook, largely reflecting trade policy concerns. It remains to be seen how these developments might affect future spending and investment. In the labor market, conditions have remained solid. Payroll job gains averaged 155,000 per month over the past 3 months. The unemployment rate at 4.2% remains low and has stayed in a narrow range for the past year.
Both of those numbers are down.
Wage growth has continued to moderate while still outpacing inflation. Overall, a wide set of indicators suggests that conditions in the labor market are broadly in balance and consistent with maximum employment. The labor market is not a source of significant inflationary pressures. Inflation has eased significantly from its highs in mid-2022, but remains somewhat elevated relative to our 2% longer run goal.
Virtually word for
Total
word.
PCE prices rose 2.3% over the 12 months ending in March. Excluding the volatile food and energy categories, core PCE prices rose 2.6%. Near-term measures of inflation expectations have moved up, as reflected in both market and survey-based measures. Survey respondents, including consumers, businesses, and professional forecasters, point to tariffs as the driving factor.
Almost word for
Beyond the
word.
next year or so, however, most measures of longer-term expectations remain consistent with our 2% inflation goal.
That's dovish.
Our monetary policy actions are guided by our dual mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. At today's meeting, the committee decided to maintain the target range for the federal funds rate at 4.25% to 4.5% and to continue reducing the size of the balance sheet. The new administration is in the process of implementing substantial policy changes in 4 distinct areas: trade, immigration, fiscal policy, and regulation. The tariff increases announced so far have been significantly larger than anticipated. All of these policies are still evolving, however, and their effects on the economy remain highly uncertain. As economic conditions evolve, we'll continue to determine the appropriate stance of monetary policy based on the incoming data, the outlook, and the balance of risks.
Virtually word for word.
If the large increases in tariffs that have been announced are sustained, they're likely to generate a rise in inflation, a slowdown in economic growth, and an increase in unemployment. The effects on inflation could be short-lived, reflecting a one-time shift in the price level. It is also possible that the inflationary effects could instead be more persistent. Avoiding that outcome will depend on the size of the tariff effects, on how long it takes for them to pass through fully into prices, and ultimately on keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Our obligation is to keep longer-term inflation expectations well anchored and to prevent a one-time increase in the price level from becoming an ongoing inflation problem. As we act to meet that obligation, we'll balance our maximum employment and price stability mandates, keeping in mind that without price stability, we cannot achieve the long periods of strong labor market conditions that benefit all Americans. We may find ourselves in the challenging scenario in which our dual mandate goals are in tension. If that were to occur, we would consider how far the economy is from each goal and the potentially different time horizons over which those respective gaps would be anticipated to close. For the time being, we're well positioned to wait for greater clarity before considering any adjustments to our policy stance. At this meeting, the committee continued its discussions as part of our 5-year review of our monetary policy framework. We focused on inflation dynamics and the implications for our monetary policy strategy. Our review includes outreach and public events involving a wide range of parties, including Fed Listens events around the country and a research conference next week. Throughout this process, we're open to new ideas and critical feedback, and we will take on board lessons of the last 5 years in determining our findings. We intend to wrap up the review by late summer. The Fed has been assigned 2 goals for monetary policy: maximum employment and stable prices. We remain committed to supporting maximum employment, bringing inflation sustainably to our 2% goal, and keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Our success in delivering on these goals matters to all Americans. We understand that our actions affect communities, families, and businesses across the country. Everything we do is in service to our public mission. We at the Fed will do everything we can to achieve our maximum employment and price stability goals.
Word for word.
Thank you. I look forward to your questions.
Is he AI? Did he said
Steve
lied.
Lisbon, CNBC. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That is not a human.
A lot has happened since the last meeting. There's been tariffs put on, tariffs taken off, and meanwhile, there's a bill advancing in Congress. And I just wonder if I could press you on the last part of your statement. Are you any closer now to deciding which side of the mandate is going to need urgent care first?
Well,
This guy always goes first. How's he always go first?
As we noted in our statement, post-meeting statement, we've judged that the risks to higher employment and higher inflation have both risen. And this, by the way, of course, is compared to March. So that's what we can say. I don't think we can say, which way this will shake out. I think there's a great deal of uncertainty about, for example, where tariff policies are going to settle out, and also when they do settle out, what will be the implications for the economy, for growth, and for employment. I think it's too early to know that. So, ultimately, we think our policy rate is in a good place to stay as we await further clarity on tariffs and ultimately their implications for the economy.
Hearing you describe what you're looking for in terms of being able to make a decision, it sounded like that's a long-term process before you sound like you're going to be comfortable, or the committee would be comfortable to act on what the data is telling you.
I don't
We
think
didn't
we
get a
know.
dot plot.
You know, I think, if you look at where we are today, we have an economy that, if you look through, you know, the sort of distortions in Q1 GDP, you've still got an economy that looks like it's growing at a solid pace. The labor market appears to be solid. Inflation is running just a bit above 2%. So it's an economy that's been resilient and is in good shape. And our policy is sort of modestly or moderately restrictive. It's 100 basis points less restrictive than it was last fall. And so we think that leaves us in a good place to wait and see. We don't think we need to be in a hurry. We think we can be patient. We're going to be watching the data. The data may move quickly or slowly, but we do think we're in a good position where we are to let things evolve and become clearer in terms of what should be the monetary policy response.
Nick.
There's no Greener. She's gone. They keep sniping our ladies.
Naturally, a lot of PTSD around 2021 and supply shocks. But there are some who argue that the current situation has notable differences. Energy costs are down. Housing imbalances look nothing like they did 4 years ago. Labor demand appears to be gradually cooling, with wage growth running below 4%. What do you see right now that could nourish higher inflation beyond a rise in goods prices this year?
I think the underlying inflation picture is good. It's what you see, which is inflation now running a bit above 2%. And we've had basically decent readings in housing services and non-housing services, which is a big part of it. So that part, I think, is moving along well. But there's just so much that we don't know. I think, and we're in a good position to wait and see, is the thing. We don't have to be in a hurry. The economy has been resilient and is doing fairly well. Our policy is well positioned. The costs of waiting to see further are fairly low, we think. So that's what we're doing. And, you know, we'll see. The administration is entering into negotiations with many countries over tariffs. We'll know more with each week and month that goes by where tariffs are going to land, and we'll know what the effects will be when we start to see those things. So we think we'll be learning. I can't tell you how long it will take, but for now it does seem like it's a fairly clear decision for us to wait and see and watch.
So when you say that you don't need to be in a hurry, does that mean that could the outlook change in such a way that a change in your stance could be warranted as soon as your next meeting?
You know, as I said, we are comfortable with our policy stance. We think we're in the right place to wait and see how things evolve. We don't feel like we need to be in a hurry. We feel like it's appropriate to be patient. And you know, when things develop, of course, we have a record of we can move quickly when that's appropriate. But we think right now the appropriate thing to do is to wait and see how things evolve. There's so much uncertainty. If you talk to businesses or market participants or forecasters, everyone is just waiting to see how developments play out, and then we'll be able to make a better assessment of what the appropriate path for monetary policy is. So we're not in that place, and you know, as that develops, and I can't really give you a time frame on that.
Janelle.
Janelle Marte with Bloomberg. So many economists have been pricing in higher odds of a recession, and several are noting that it is more difficult for the Fed to cut rates preemptively given the higher risks for higher inflation. So given the outlook, do you still see a path for a soft landing, and what does that look like? Well, let me say, I mean, so let's look back and see where we are. So to go through 2024 up to the day, we've had you know, unemployment in the low 4s for more than a year. We've had inflation coming down now in the mid to low 2s. We've had an economy growing at 2.5%. So that is the economy as we see it now. What looks likely, given the scope and scale of the tariffs, is that we will see certainly the risks to higher inflation, higher unemployment have increased. And if that's what we do see, if the tariffs are ultimately put in place at those levels, which we don't know,
then we won't see further progress toward our goals. But we might see a delay in that. I think in our thinking, we would never do anything but keep achieving those goals. But we would, at least for the next, let's say, year, we would not be making progress toward those goals. Again, if that's the way the tariffs shake out. The thing is, we don't know that. There's so much uncertainty about the scale, scope, timing, and persistence of the tariffs. So that's that. In terms of preemption, I think you can look back at the 2019 cuts as preemptive. I wouldn't say that what we did last fall was at all preemptive. If anything, it was a little late. But 2019, we did cut 3 times. But the situation was you had a weakening economy and you had inflation at 1.6%. So that's a situation where you can move preemptively. Now we have inflation running above target. It has been above target for 4 years. It's not so far above target now. And we have an expectation, conditional on what happens, that we'll see upward pressure on inflation. If you look at where forecasters are, they're all forecasting an increase in inflation. So it makes it, and then we've also got forecasts of weakening in the economy, and some have recession forecasts. We don't publish a forecast about that. We don't publish a forecast that assesses how likely a recession is. But in any case, it's not a situation where we can be preemptive because we actually don't know what the right response to the data will be until we see more data.
Colby.
Colby Smith with the New York Times. How much weakness does the committee need to see, though, in the labor market and the economy more broadly to lower interest rates again? Is it about a certain increase in the unemployment rate over a period of time, or perhaps a certain number of negative monthly job reports? I mean, how are you making that assessment?
So first of all, we don't see that yet, right? We have 4.2% unemployment, good participation, wages behaving very well. Participation, I mentioned, at a good level. So, with the labor market, we would look at the totality of the data. We'd look at the level of the unemployment rate. We'd look at the speed with which it's changing. We would look at the whole huge array of labor market data to get a sense of whether conditions are really deteriorating or not. And at the same time, we'd be looking at the other side of the mandate. We could be in a position of having to balance those two things, which is, of course, a difficult balancing judgment that we'd have to make.
On that point about balancing, I mean, you've mentioned that the committee would consider how far the economy is from each goal and the time it would take to kind of get back to that point. But what does that mean in practice? I mean, how much of that assessment will be rooted in a forecast versus data dependence?
It would be a combination of the two. I mean, let's just say this would be a complicated and challenging judgment that we would have to make. Yeah, we're not in this situation, but the situation is if the two goals are in tension, so let's say that unemployment is moving up in an uncomfortable way, and so is inflation. That's not the situation we're in, hypothetically, but we would look at how far they are from the goals, how far they're expected to be from the goals, what's the expected time to get back to their goals. We'd look at all those things and make a difficult judgment, and that's in our framework. It's always been in our thinking. We haven't faced that question in a very long time. So again, difficult judgment to make, and not one that we face today, and we may never face it, but we have to be keeping it in our thinking now.
Edward.
Thank you. Edward Lawrence with Fox Business. So we had the CPI report that came out that showed month over month the first decrease in inflation in about 3 years. The jobs report, you said, solid, that we saw. At the same time, we have those new tariffs that we're living under. So given this, should the Federal Reserve be cutting rates at all this year?
According to the dot plot,
It's
yes.
going to depend. I think you have to just take a step back and realize this is why we are where we are. Is we're going to need to see how this evolves. There are cases in which it would be appropriate for us to cut rates this year. There are cases in which it wouldn't, and we just don't know until we know more about how this is going to settle out and what the economic implications are for employment, for inflation. I couldn't confidently say that I know what the appropriate path will be.
So following on that, just, so then how does President Trump calling on you personally, as well as the Federal Reserve, to make rate cuts affect your decision today and affect your job difficulty?
Doesn't affect our doing our job at all. So we're always going to do the same thing, which is we're going to use our tools to foster maximum employment and price stability for the benefit of the American people. We're always going to consider only the economic data, the outlook, the balance of risks, and that's it. That's all we're going to consider. So it really doesn't affect either our job or the way we do it.
Howard.
Hi, Howard Schneider with Reuters, and thanks for the time. I'm wondering, I mean, given the complexity about the first quarter GDP and what lies ahead, I'm just wondering what your intuition tells you about the underlying direction of the economy right now. Many of your colleagues have said they feel growth is slowing. If so, do you have any sense of by how much, to what degree the slowdown may be? What does your gut tell you about how things are evolving out there?
My gut tells me that uncertainty about the path of the economy is extremely elevated, and that the downside risks have increased. The risk is, as we pointed out in our statement, the risks of higher unemployment and higher inflation have risen, but they haven't materialized yet. They're really not in the data yet. That tells me more than by intuition, because I think it's obvious actually that the right thing for us to do is we're in a good place. Our policy's in a very good place, and the right thing to do is await further clarity. And there's usually things clarify and the appropriate direction becomes clear. That's what usually happens. Right now, it's very hard to say what that would be. In the meantime, the economy is doing fine. Our policy isn't, it's not highly restrictive. It's somewhat restrictive. It's 100 basis points less restrictive than it was in, last summer. So we think it's in a good place, and we think the appropriate thing is for us to wait and see and get more clarity about the direction of the economy.
Well, let me press you on this idea of the economy being fine right now, because reading the Beige Book very closely the last time around, there was a lot of negative stuff, negative sentiment that was in there. And I know that everybody's looking at soft data right now. You mentioned it yourself that the sentiment's sour. But the Beige Book was talking about, the beginnings of layoffs in some industries, prices rising in some places, and an awful lot of investment decisions being pushed to the sideline. Doesn't that point to a slowdown?
It may well. It just hasn't shown up yet. And we all look at all these sentiment and read many individual comments just to get a better feel. And businesses and households very broadly are concerned and postponing economic decisions of various kinds. And yes, if that continues and nothing happens to sort of alleviate those concerns, then you would expect that to begin to show up in economic data. It wouldn't maybe show up overnight, but it would show up over weeks and months. And that may be what happens, but it hadn't happened yet. And also, there are things that can happen that will change that narrative. I mean, they haven't happened, but it's possible to imagine things that. But in the meantime, yes, we're watching it extremely carefully, like everyone is, but don't see really much evidence of it in actual economic data yet. And by the way, consumers keep spending, credit card spending. It's it's still a healthy economy, albeit one that is shrouded in some very downbeat sentiment on the part of people and businesses.
Michael McKee from Bloomberg Radio and Television. The Fed's been criticized recently by a former governor for what he calls mission creep. You take on more problems, use more tools, and then end up building tools to deal with the fallout of those tools, which then makes it a given that you will act more aggressively in the future. Is that a fair critique, and is that something you would be looking at in your framework review?
Sorry, say the critique again.
That the Fed has been involved in mission creep, gets involved in using too many new tools to deal with problems and to go too far. Is that something that the critique was based around the fact that you did QE and QE and QE and
okay. Sure.
and went beyond the narrow confines of your mandate?
So, well, I mean, there are a couple, that's not really beyond the confines of our mandate. Look, I would say this, we did things, essentially we're on an emergency footing for a couple of years in the pandemic, and it's very fair and very welcome for people to look back over what we did and say, hey, you could have done this better and different. And one thing we hear a lot is we could have explained QE a little better. We did think we were explaining it in real time. I completely accept the thought that we could have explained it better. There's a lot of thinking that we went on too long with QE. I can tell you that the reason we did was we were concerned that we didn't want a sharp tightening in financial conditions at a time when we thought the economy was still vulnerable. And so we did hold on for a long time to QE, and we, of course, tapered and everything. And then we immediately went into QT, and, we're down a couple of trillion. But I get we certainly, with the benefit of hindsight, could have tapered earlier or faster. That's absolutely right. But this is all very welcome. We knew doing this in real time that we weren't going to get it perfect, and those kind of after action kind of looks are essential, and we're doing the same thing in our review. So on some issues.
The other part of that critique is that you've taken on topics that are outside of the mandate, such as climate change and trying to ensure that certain groups are benefited by your economic policies in terms of employment, et cetera.
So, okay, on climate, you've heard me say over and over
again.
We will not be climate policymakers.
Over and over again.
That our role on climate is a very, very narrow one. And I think that's what we've done. We've done really very little on climate. You can say that little bit that we've done was too much, but I wouldn't want to give any impression that we've taken climate and it's something that we're spending a lot of time and energy on. We're not. We have very, very narrow things. We did one guidance for the banks, and then we did a one-time stress analysis, climate stress analysis, and that's it. And we dropped out of the network for greening the financial system. So we didn't do much on climate, but I do think, and I've said this publicly several times, I think it's a real danger for us to try to take on a mandate like that, which is very narrow application to our work. And the risk is if you go for things that are really not on your mandate, then why are you independent? And I think that's a very fair question. I do think we've done a whole lot less on climate than some people seem to think.
Over and over and over again.
Anyway, that's what I think.
Should you have taken on the question of bringing unemployment rates down for specific categories?
We didn't do that. What we said was that we never targeted any unemployment rate for individual racial or demographic groups. What we said was that maximum employment was a broad and inclusive goal. And I think what we meant by that was we're going to consider the totality of the country as we look at our maximum employment goal. Of course, we were never going to target any individual group with that, but I think some people, wanted to hear it that way. But that's not at all what we meant. So that's just not a correct reading of our. But I can see how maybe people found that confusing, and we have to take that into consideration.
Jolene.
Hi, Chair Powell. Thanks for taking our questions
Chair
today.
Powell,
I'm
drink.
Jolene Kent with CBS News. You've said wait and see, and the economy is doing fine today, but the impact of tariffs are already showing up at the ports. Businesses, big and small, are telling us that they feel it, and most importantly, consumers say they feel it, that the challenges are here, and there's no waiting and seeing. For Main Street, what is the breaking point? What would have to happen to prompt a rate cut specifically?
Well, so we really don't see in the data yet big economic effects. We see sentiment, there are concerns that higher prices may be coming or things like that. So they're worried now about inflation. They're worried about the, a shock from the tariffs, but they really haven't. That shock hasn't hit yet. Okay, so we're going to be looking at the not just the sentiment data, but also the real economic data as we assess what it is we should do. And remember, there'll be two effects. One of them would be weakening economy, weakening economic activity, which translates into higher unemployment, and the other would be potentially higher inflation. Again, to say it again, the timing, the scope, the scale, and the persistence of those effects are very, very uncertain. So it's not at all clear what the appropriate response for monetary policy is at this time. And and by the way, our policy is in a good place, so we think we can wait and move when it is clear what the right thing to do is. Really not at all clear what it is we should do. So people are feeling stress and concern, but unemployment hasn't gone up. Job creation is fine. Wages are in good shape. People are not layoffs, or people are not getting laid off at high levels. Initial claims for unemployment are not increasing, in any kind of impressive way. So the economy itself is still, in solid shape.
Just a quick follow-up. President Trump now says he
following
does
up,
not
baby,
plan to
all day.
remove you as chair. When you heard that, what did you think?
I don't have anything more for you on that. I've pretty much covered that issue.
Nothing.
Thank you.
But please ask more questions. Anybody, but only Asian.
Hi, thank you. Chris Rugaber, Associated Press.
No.
Well, I just wanted to follow up. Earlier, it sounded like you said it was unclear how the Fed, what kind of interest rate decisions you will make later this year. So does that, in March, there was guidance that 2 cuts might happen. 2 cuts were penciled in for this year. Is that now, that guidance from the last press conference, has that been overtaken by events at this point?
We don't do a summary of economic projections at every meeting, as you know. We do it every other meeting, and so this was the meeting when we didn't do it. We don't also kind of poll people, so I really wouldn't want to try to make a specific projection for where we are relative to that. We will, in 6 weeks, we have the June meeting, and you'll have another SEP. I'm not going to hazard a guess here today as to what it would be. Again, what I would say is that we think our policy rate is in a good place. We think it leaves us well positioned to respond in a timely way to potential developments. That's where we are. And that, depending on the way things play out, that could include rate cuts. It could include us holding where we are. We just are going to need to see, how things play out before we make those decisions.
Great. And just to follow up on that, I mean, when you address the issue of how the Fed would handle both rising unemployment and rising inflation, how are you thinking about the fact that addressing one could exacerbate the other? So a rate cut to reduce unemployment could worsen inflation and vice versa. How do you handle those challenges?
You just captured this is the issue with
This is our
the two
job.
goals
This is
being
what
in
we do.
tension. It's a very challenging question. Now, there can be a case in which one goal is very far, one variable is very, very far from its goal, much farther than the other, and if so, you concentrate on that one. And frankly, that was the case. Well, it wasn't a case where they were really in tension, but if you go back to 2022, it was very clear that we needed to focus on inflation. The labor market was also super tight, so it wasn't really a trade-off.
Super.
I think what our framework document says. It says we'll look at how far each variable is from its goal, and also we'll factor in the time it would take to get there. So, that's going to be potentially a very difficult judgment, but the data could break in a way that it's not. I just don't think we know that. The data could easily favor one or the other, and right now there's no need to make a choice, and no real basis for doing so.
I'd agree.
Victoria.
Asian Gina's back, baby.
Hi, Victoria Guido with Politico. I wanted to ask, Congress is currently debating spending cuts alongside extending the tax cuts. And I know you've talked many times about how the path of the debt is unsustainable, but given that we're also talking right now about the economy slowing, potentially even recession, I was just wondering, is there a danger that spending cuts now could slow growth a lot more?
We don't give Congress fiscal advice. We take what they do as a given, and we put it in our models and in our assessment of the economy. So I wouldn't want to, speculate on that. I mean, I think we do know that the debt is on an unsustainable level, on an unsustainable path, not at an unsustainable level, but an unsustainable path. And it's on Congress to figure out how to how to get us back on a sustainable path, and it's not up to us to give them advice.
Well, do you think that they should take macroeconomic conditions into account as they look at this?
I think they don't need my advice and our advice on how to do fiscal policy any more than we need their advice on monetary policy.
Andrew.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Andrew Ackerman with the Washington Post. In your Jackson Hole comments last year,
Andrew Jackson Hole.
you said you would not welcome further cooling in labor market conditions. The unemployment rate then was 4.2%, which is what it is now. Many forecasters now predict a higher jobless rate. How has your tolerance for weakening labor market conditions changed compared to a year ago?
So it was quite a different situation. What was happening last year is that over the space of 6, 8, 7 months, the unemployment rate went up by almost a full percentage point. And it was click, 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 click each month. And everywhere people were talking about downside risk to the labor market. At the same time, payroll job numbers were getting softer and softer. So there was a really obvious concern about downside risk to the labor market. And so at Jackson Hole and then in September, we wanted to address that forthrightly. We wanted to show that we were there we'd been there for inflation for a couple of years, and we wanted to show also that we're there for the labor market. And it was important that we send that signal. Fortunately, since then, the labor market has really, and the unemployment rate have really been moving sideways at a level that is, well in the range of mainstream estimates of maximum employment. So that concern has gotten a lot less. So, you're at 4.2% unemployment. I think we were in a very different situation. Now we have a situation where, the risks to higher inflation and higher unemployment have both gone up, as we noted in our statement, and we've got to monitor both of those. We actually have a potential situation where there may be a trade-off or tension between the two, potentially. We don't have it yet, and we may not have it, but that's what we have, and that's why I think it's a very different situation.
I guess I want to follow up by asking how much of a rise in the jobless rate you could tolerate.
Yeah, I can't give you I'm not going to try to give you a specific number. I'll just say we have to now be looking at both variables and which of them is demanding. If one of them is demanding our focus more than the other, that would tell us what to do with policy. If they're more or less equally distant and equally or not distant, then we don't have to make that assessment. The assessment is you wait. So I'm not going to try to be really specific about what we need to see in terms of a number. But if we did see significant deterioration in the labor market, of course that's one of our two variables, and we would look to be able to support that. You'd hope that it wasn't also coming at a time when inflation was getting very bad. And again, we're speculating here. We don't know this. We don't know any of these things. It's very hypothetical. We're just going to have to wait and see how it plays out.
Thanks.
Claire Jones, Financial Times. In terms of getting some clarity, we've got some talks at the weekend in Geneva between the US and China. A lot of economists are attaching an awful lot of importance to what we hear from those talks. How much importance are you attaching to them in terms of judging what will happen to the US economy going forward? And just in a similar vein, some economists are saying it's days, not weeks, that we have until we start to put the US economy at risk of seeing the sort of pandemic-era shortages and higher prices if we don't kind of soothe relations between the US and China. So it'd be good to have your view on that too.
So, these are not talks that we're in any way involved in, so I really can't comment directly on them. So, but what I will say is this, we had, coming out of the March meeting, the public generally had an assessment of where tariffs were going, and then April 2 happened, and it was really substantially larger than anticipated in the forecasts that I had seen and in our forecasts. So, and now we have we're in a new phase where it seems to be we're entering a new phase where the administration is beginning talks with a number of our important trading partners, and that has the potential to change the picture materially or not. And so I think it's going to be very important how that shakes out. But we simply have to wait and see how it works out. It certainly could change the picture, and we're mindful of not trying to make conclusive judgments about what will happen at a time when when the facts are changing.
And just on the fall in shipping volumes from China over these tensions, I mean, do you share that concern that we could start seeing goods shortages and higher prices in the coming weeks if this isn't resolved very quickly?
I don't want to get we shouldn't be involved even verbally in the questions about the timing of these things. Yes, of course we follow all that data. We see the shipping data, we see all that, but ultimately this is for the administration to do. This is, this is their mandate, not ours. And I know as you can see, they're again beginning to have talks with many nations, and that has the potential to change the picture materially. So we'll just have to wait and see.
𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐫𝐭 𝐲𝐓 with Nikkei. Thank you for doing this. The volume of imported goods increased significantly in the first quarter. Do you think that this situation could cause a delay in the impact of tariff on inflation? And does this mean that it will take longer time to reduce uncertainty?
The decision we made today? Which decision?
So the future decision. So the volume of the imported goods has increased significantly. So the impact on the imported inflation may delay. So what is the impact to your future decision?
Okay, so I mean, I think we think that there was a big spike in imports, right? Very big, historically large, really, and to beat tariffs. And now that should actually reverse, so that it's the difference between it's exports minus imports. So and imports were huge, and so that it conveyed a very negative contribution to U.S. GDP, annualized GDP in the first quarter, as we all know. So that could, in the second quarter, be reversed, so that we have an unusually large contribution to usually positive. That's very likely as imports drop sharply. You could also have, very likely you'll have restatements of first quarter. It'll turn out that consumer spending was higher. It'll turn out that inventories were higher, and so you'll see those data revised up. It may actually go into the third quarter too, and so I think this whole process is going to a little bit make it harder to make a clean assessment of U.S. demand. I mentioned private domestic final purchases, which doesn't have inventories government or inventories government. Anyway, it's a cleaner read on
ready for a nap
on private demand. But that too probably was flattered a little bit by by strong demand for imports to beat tariffs. So that might overstate. It's a really good reading, 3% PDFP in the first quarter. That might actually overstate. So it's not really going to, I don't think it's going to affect our decisions. I will just say, though, that it's a little confusing, and it's probably less confusing to us than it would be to the general public as we try to explain this. It's complicated, and GDP is sending a signal, PDFP is sending a signal. It's a little bit confusing, but I think we understand what's going on. It's not really going to change things for us.
Courtney. Courtney Brown from Axios. I guess, we talked about some of the indications of potential layoffs, price hikes, an economic slowdown, all being evident in the soft data. I'm curious why the Fed needs to wait for that to translate into hard data to, make any type of monetary policy decision, especially if the hard data is not as timely or might be warped by tariff-related effects. Are you worried that the soft data might be some sort of false warning?
No, I mean, look at the state of the economies. The labor market is solid, inflation is low. We can afford to be patient as things unfold. There's no real cost to our waiting at this point. Also, the sense of it is we're not sure what the right thing will be. You know, there should be some increase in inflation. There should be some increase in unemployment. Those call for different responses. And so until we know, potentially call for different responses. And so, you know, until we know more, we have the ability to wait and see. And it seems to be a pretty clear decision. Everyone on the committee supported waiting. And
there was this sort of vibe session, if you will, where the sentiments expressed in soft data did not translate into the hard economic data. How are you thinking about that when interpreting some of the signs in the softer survey data?
You know, I think going back a number of years, the link between sentiment data and consumer spending has been weak. It's not been a strong link at all. On the other hand, we haven't had a move of this, you know, speed and size. So it wouldn't be the case that we're looking at this and just completely dismissing it. But it's another reason to wait and see. You're right that we had a couple of years during the pandemic where people were saying just very downbeat surveys and going out and spending money. So that can happen, and that may happen to some degree here. We just don't know. This is an outsized change in sentiment, though, and so none of us is looking at this and saying that we're sure one way or the other. We're not.
Matt. Thanks, Chair Powell. Matt Egan with CNN.
Chair Powell, drink.
So you mentioned earlier that you're monitoring the shipping data, and we have seen in the shipping data that imports from China into the Port of Los Angeles have plunged, and that has raised concerns about potential shortages. What tools, if any, does the Fed have to ensure that prices and inflation expectations don't get out of hand if tariffs do cause significant supply chain disruptions?
I mean, we don't have, you know, the kind of tools that are good at dealing with supply chain problems. We don't have that at all. That's a job for the administration and for the private sector more than anything. You know, what we can do with our interest rate tool is we can be more or less supportive of demand, and that'd be a very inefficient way to try to fix supply chain problems. But you know, we don't see the inflation yet. We're of course reading the same stories and watching the same data as everybody else. And, you know, right now we see inflation, you know, kind of moving sideways at a fairly low level.
If I could follow up on that, President Trump has indicated that he will likely name a replacement for you when your term as chair expires next year. But your position on the board runs through January 2028, I believe. Would you consider remaining on the Fed board even if you're no longer chair?
So I don't have anything for you on that. My whole focus is on, and my colleagues' focus is all on, you know, trying to navigate this tricky passage we're in right now, trying to make the right decisions. You know, we want to make the best decisions for the people that we serve. That's what we think about day and night, and this is a challenging situation, and that's 100% of our focus right now.
Let's go to Jennifer for the last question.
Chair Powell, Jennifer Schonberger with Yahoo Finance. Public records of your schedule so far this year show no meetings with President Trump.
There's double
Past
mask, girl.
presidents Obama, Bush, and Clinton have all met with Fed chairs, and you met with Trump during his first term. Why haven't you asked for a meeting yet with the president?
I've never asked for a meeting with any president, and I never will. It's not. I wouldn't do that. There's never a reason for me to ask for a meeting. It's always been the other way.
So would you want to meet with him if given the opportunity to get more information?
It's never an initiative that I take. It's always an initiative. I don't think it's up to a Fed chair to seek a meeting with the president, although maybe some have done so. I've never done so, and I can't imagine myself doing that. I think it's always comes the other way. A president wants to meet with you, but that hasn't happened.
And if I could just ask one question on monetary policy. When it is time to cut rates, how will you determine how far down rates will have to come to try to keep a balance on the inflation mandate as employment weakens?
I think once you have a clear direction, you can make a judgment about how fast to move and that kind of thing. So it's really the harder question is the timing, I think, and when will that become clear? And fortunately, as I mentioned, we have our policy in a good place, the economy's in a good place, and it's really appropriate, we think, for us to be patient and wait for things to unfold as we get more clarity about what we should do. Thanks very much.
There we go, boys and girls. The biggest, most important FOMC of our lives. Again, behind us now. I appreciate you guys joining. Let's see here. Most things relatively unfazed. I think dollar is the big winner today. Gold, stocks, Bitcoin, I think are slightly down. Not a lot of change here. So no interest rate. That was no one serious was expecting interest rate change today. We didn't get a dot plot update. Maybe that'll come in next week in the minutes. What else? Let me see. I took some notes, but I got distracted a few times. Asian Gene is back, boys. Let's go. That is the most bullish sign I've ever seen in my entire lifetime. I would say his speech was about 90% exactly word for word as March, so that means not a lot has changed. But I did notice that most of the numbers he referenced have cooled a little bit actually since March, so that is a good direction for sure. Man, I got so distracted by Asian G and I just lost half of my thoughts here. Gonna go down to just replying right here to a lot of the comments, especially towards the end. I love that a lot of you guys hate Powell. I kind of love it. I don't share that feeling. That's fine. But let me speak in reality to you guys for a minute here. Some of you won't like this. Some of you guys don't like reality. The people saying that Powell is doing something to Trump, dude, nothing supports that. No data supports that, man. Powell and the Fed have done an amazing job of remaining nonpartisan, non-political, sticking to their job. I say this a lot. You guys don't believe me sometimes, but nothing supports that. A lot of people are thinking or getting this idea of Trump told him to do something, he didn't do something, so he's against Trump. That logic's crazy, guys. He's doing his job. Let me just do this for you in a second. Do you know who put Powell in his position? Do you know who made him Fed chair? Trump. Trump did. That's the first start. Two, Jerome Powell doesn't make the decisions for the Fed. It isn't like Jerome Powell says we're not going to raise interest rates, so they don't. The Fed is a committee. It is 12 members. He is one of 12. There's 12 votes. He doesn't get to decide what happens. If you drop dead today, he wouldn't change anything. You'd still have the 11 other votes and whoever they put in. Doesn't matter. It's not like he decides something. A lot of people were saying something about he hates Trump and loves Biden, which is the strangest thing to me if you just look at the history of these. Powell put rates at 0 during Trump's last term, at 0. The most favorable thing, interest rate change, to economy you could do. He increased it by 550 basis points during Biden's term, only to slowly stop at the very end. He's not playing favorites. That's really what I'm saying. I know this is going to trigger a bunch of people in here. All I'm saying is that he's not playing favorites. If you think that, I think you got to examine why. You got to ask yourself why, what's going on there. The reality is, and this is what we have seen him say the last 2 times, there's just too much uncertainty right now, and there isn't enough reason to change things. Things are on a decent path. Well, I won't get into that specific, but things aren't crumbling. There's so much uncertainty. Literally today, we were going to hear about China's tariffs and maybe they're being revoked, maybe not. Guys, literally today, we could have had a huge change, or we're supposed to, or whatever it is. That is not certain. Powell is being the adult. I know being an adult seems weird in 2025 because it just doesn't seem popular, but he's acting like an adult. You really don't have to like it, but just at least call it for what it is. You don't have to agree with him. You don't have to like him. I don't care. I like following him. I like doing these streams, but the guy himself, I think he does a good job. It's just not maybe what we want, but doing what we want is basically what gets us into these shitty situations where someone has to come and play the adult. I don't know. It probably just lost a lot of you there. That's okay. I love you anyway. You're always welcome here. I just say it as I see it, as always. And speaking of that, I appreciate you for tuning in. We'll be covering the minutes probably in a week when they come out. Need an updated dot plot. Let's see if we get that. Make sure you join the Discord, discord.gg/TomCrown. It's free. Jump in there. Use the links in the video description below to get special roles and perks in that Discord. You should subscribe and like the channel. We are live here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and often more in between. We have the #1 free trading course on YouTube on this channel. You just go find it in the playlist. You should check out joincrowncrypto.com, our new premium group. It's not for everybody, but it is, in my opinion, the most valuable thing that someone getting into trading, getting into crypto can experience. I stand by that with a 1-week free trial for anybody. Nobody offers that on courses. Why? Because they ain't gonna make any money that way. They ain't gonna make any money that way. If you're looking for a signal group or something, that's not what this is. I'm not gonna spoon feed you trades and tell you like, oh, you'll make infinity % if you just follow my trades. That's just not how any of this works. My goal is to help you get your feet, get your sea legs when it comes to crypto and trading, get you on the right path to being successful through all of my experience. It comes with much more intimate small group stuff. You'll be able to talk to me directly with voice, ask questions. I want to help you. Check it out, joincrowncrypto.com. I love you guys. Today was fun. We have 𝐂𝐨𝐮𝐫𝐿 back, which is probably the biggest W of the day. And I look forward to seeing y'all Friday, and maybe tomorrow.